Hi, I'm Ina Calder with the InDe'B Quilt Shop. When we first started this business, I had a friend reach out to me that said, I need help with ironing. She didn't exactly say what she needed help with, but I thought about that and I thought, if you're new to quilting, there's a lot of tips and tricks that would be really helpful so that you get a good result when you're done. So I'd like to share some things with you. Okay, first off is preparing your fabric. Okay, I do not spray starch any pre-cuts except for fat quarters. Occasionally jelly rolls, but I never do 5-inch squares and I don't do 10-inch squares because you won't have a 5-inch square and you won't have a 10-inch square when you're done. You'll have like a 10-inch by a 5 by a 9.5. So that's an important thing to know and realize that you don't necessarily want to do that unless you're using cuts that are smaller than like the 10 inches or the 5 inches. Okay. There are all kinds of things on the market. You can see these mister bottles all over the place. I really like them because it is truly a mist. It's not a spray, it's a mist. And it does a little fine one. You can also put liquid spray starch in these and mist out your spray starch. That's also really good. Okay. Now, when we talk about starches, I have 3 examples here. This is a flatter spray, and this one is scentless. And Flatter is a really good brand, a silk brand. They do, I use them in their silk stuff to wash my quilts, but these are really good. Okay, so here's my tip also. I don't know if you can see this or not. There's like some little floaties in there. It's because I mixed this with something else. It was another liquid spray, very little left. Don't mix your sprays because I had those little floaty things. I can still use my flatter spray until I get to the very end. I just have to watch out for those little globs. So there's that. There's also, Best Press by Mary Ellen's Best Press. Another good one, comes in many different scents, flavors. This one is a peach. I think lilac is probably, or lavender is probably a favorite of people. This is another good one to do. And I use this if I'm just like spraying. I just need a little more something on whatever it is that I am pressing and ironing. Okay. But when I get in and really go for it, this is what I use. Okay. Very inexpensive, but that's what I spray all of my fat quarters or yardage with. And then it gives me a very good result. And it doesn't fray as much. I get cleaner cuts. My seams seem to be better. And it easily washes out. All of these starches easily wash out when you wash your quilt for the first time. Okay, you're going to want to set up an ironing station. And mine is not an ironing board. Okay, the only time I use an ironing board is if I am ironing large pieces. Like if I've sprayed all the fat quarters I'm going to use for a quilt, I will go and iron them all on an ironing board. If I am like getting to the end of the quilt top and I want it ironed and pressed, I will definitely use an ironing board to do that. But most of the time I'm using this little TV tray here. You want to make sure when you get one of those, if you take that one, really great to take to retreats or just to have right next to your sewing machine because they don't take very much space. And you honestly are just pressing pieces, like these little pieces like this. Okay, so you're not pressing usually a whole humongo block like this and putting things together. When I get to this size, then I'm definitely going to use an ironing board. Okay, I use a wool pressing mat. Okay, and this is my size. It's a perfect size. It fits right on top of that board right there. Okay, now so you can use these. You don't have to use these. There are other kinds of pressing boards. There's several tutorials if you just look on YouTube of how to make some of those. They actually use a piece of wood, again, the wood TV tray versus the wood board, and they usually have some batting and then fabric. Sometimes they might have something that's reflective kind of material, like it gets turned so you can see, like this heat resistant fabric right here. On them, and so you can use something like that to cover your board if you want to, or just even one of your fabrics that you want to use. I like the wool mats. I think they give me a good result. They have a tendency, because they're not a hard surface, they have a tendency not to impregnate the seam into the piece. So you can press and you won't have that, like when you're pressing a pair of pants and you go to press it, and then also you can see the seam right there where you press on top of those pants. So that's the nice thing about a wool mat, is that it makes it so that it doesn't do that. Okay. Now irons, a little one by your sewing station is really great. Okay, this one has some feet, so it actually will stand up like this, which is really nice because then the hot surface is not down on your mat. And you can even like get one of these cute little, find the tutorial for this cute little bag that you can carry it in. And it also has that pressing surface, so you can actually like take this to your retreat, pull it out, use this, and press right on top of it. So that is really fun to do. Okay, but currently this is what I'm using, an Aliso. Okay, and it's a mini Aliso, which I really like. It has a really good, it's a hand, it fits my hand well. I like that it's heavier than the other one, and it is much hotter than this one. So I find myself going up to the 3 little bars, and then when I'm in between, I will turn it down because it does get fairly hot. This one, you do not want to put just straight on any ironing surface and leave it there because it does get really hot. It does come with this. This side, where you can see the indentations, is what you're going to wrap around the iron when you're transporting it. Okay, it just has these little backs here that sneak up on it, maybe. Okay, so you can see how it just like grips on, and so it protects the surface when you're traveling. When you get to where you're going to be doing, you'll flip it over and it says resting side, and then that's what you put on. I have found though that that's not enough when I'm on top of my wool mat. And it started doing this. I think you can see this yellow, so it started to scorch it. So I had to find one more layer, so I got one of these. Any kind of silicone heat resistant mat is going to be great to work with. So between these two, I can leave it on high and it doesn't scorch my mat anymore. Okay. Okay. Another really great tool to use is a clapper. Okay. Clappers are made, this one's from Riley Blake, and I like it because it has a groove handle that you can hang on to. But there are other ones, some of them are a little bit not as wide, because honestly, a lot of times you don't need it this wide because you're just doing a 1/4 inch seam. But this is a really good one. And this is their smaller one, and then there's a larger one that we have. But I find that this one works for almost anything. You can also get other fancier ones like this. Now you notice that this one has, it's been stained and really cute design, really beautiful, right? But it's been a shellacked or whatever on top of it. But the bottom of it doesn't have anything on it. And that's an important feature, to have it untreated, totally, completely untreated, because when you use it, you're going to take, when you put it on the seam, it's going to take the heat out of it, and it cools it down faster, and it leaves your seam pressed exactly where it needs to be. Okay, and I'll show you those in a minute when we talk about pressing Jade's form. Okay, sometimes you're going to want a tool like this. I also have another one that's like half the size of that, and I can't find it. I'm sure one day I will, but I can't find it right now. But they're covered with kind of like a fuzzy knit fabric. It's not, I don't think that it's a woven. But anyway, so what do we do with this one? This one's really great when you go to like, maybe you're pressing out, you've sewn something together for like a handle, and you don't want to press the edges and the fold, on the folds, but all you want to do is press this, and you just want to press it, open or whatever. It's going to allow you to press just the seam, and it won't press creases anywhere else because it's only going to press right where your iron goes along the seam. So those are really nice. The little skinny one is probably something that gets used more often in quilting and bag making. This one was one that I had picked up when I was doing clothing, and so that was a nice size. Sometimes when you are pressing, you need a protective cover. Maybe the fabric you're using has metallic in it, or it's maybe you used a silk, or you've used something that has a design on it or texture, and you don't want it to melt, or maybe you've done some applique and you have glue on the back and you don't. So you can get pressing mats. They come in all different colors, all different shapes. This is one that I have. It came 3 of these in a little roll, just all rolled up. But really great to be able to press on that. You can also get these kinds of mats. These are a silicone, and these are used when you are doing something like this kind of applique, where you need to know where like the snow lands on the tree, you know, or how his hat fits here or how it fits into here. And so what you need to do is you need to be able to iron together the smaller pieces and then add them onto your bigger piece and iron in place. So what's great about this is that you can put them on here, you can iron right onto that. And when you get ready to, you can just lift them up off of this and put them right on what you need to, and then finish ironing it. And this will keep everything together. It doesn't stick, no glue or whatever. And I don't know if you can see, there's like a hash, like a crosshatch kind of a design underneath. So it's, I think, fiberglass in there. And so it's a good heavy duty kind of a mat, and is really great for doing those kinds of features. Okay. Sometimes when you are ironing, you don't want to over iron your pieces, because you can sometimes distort them, especially if you're working with diagonals. Okay, so some really great tools, first of all, are like these tools, really great to turn with. This is just a chopstick, a wooden chopstick I had, but it has kind of more of a rounded tip. It's a little, I don't know if you can see, it's a little tip right there. Okay, there's tools like this. There's another tool that goes, made by the same company. This is from Clover, that has a little bit different shape too. It has two ends, you know, that you can use. But I like these ones, or even this end, because it helps you to get, like if you've turned something inside out, it helps you to get that, push the seam all the way out to the edge, and then you're ironing that. So like if you were doing a circle, you don't have a circle that has a flat edge because you didn't push it all the way out. So it helps you to get that and push it all the way out. Okay. Other pressing tools. I see other end of this and this. Okay. This is really good roller to just roll out your, I'm going to put this down so you can see what I'm doing here. Okay. So like if I'm going to use this one, and I need it to be pressed either to one direction or pressing it open, this is really great to just press like this. Okay. You can also finger press and do your finger with the same way, but you want to be careful that you're not, you know, pulling. Also, just the heat from your finger will also help that to be pressed open really well. Or you can use this end, this straight end of this, and you can go in and press it open. Okay. Turn my iron on. All right. Normally, when you're sewing clothing, you do press that seam open. But when you are sewing pieces together, you don't want to press that seam open, okay? And so one of the first things that you're going to do is you're going to do what we call pressing, setting the seams. And setting the seams just means that you're going to press on top of it just like this, and it's going to relax all the fibers, including your stitching line. And that's all pressing, setting the seam. It just makes it a little easier. And then you're going to press, I'm going to turn it this way so you can see what I'm doing, it all to that direction. You can press to the dark side. This is one time in your life that going to the dark side is a good thing. Okay. And the reason that you want to press to the dark side is because you don't want the seam to show. And then we're going to put the clapper on top. You don't have to put any pressure on here if you don't want to. It's okay if you want to move it. I usually flip it over because this one has two sides that you can do that with. And what it's doing is it's removing all the heat from that. And then you end up with this very nicely pressed. It's all pressed to the other side. And so when you lift it up and look at it, you're not going to see that seam is hidden underneath the dark side. So almost everything that you do, that's how you're going to do this, is pressing to this side. Occasionally, you're going to be working with something like this that is a diagonal. So all these seams, well, this seam is a diagonal seam. So it's really important that you don't, that you're careful about this, that you don't press it too much. And notice we're pressing, not ironing. So what I like to do is just start with the end, and I just gently go and just kind of press that all to that side. And then I'm going to put this on the clapper to get the heat out. And I'm going to flip it over. I could have probably gone both directions. It's not going to hurt to go back and forth to get all the heat out. And so then I have my half square triangle. Neatly pressed. It's not distorted. If I were to go measure that, it would be exactly the size that I need it to be. Okay. Sometimes you're doing a 4 patch. That means that you have all of these for things, but you can't always on this one press to the dark side because you only have 2 dark pieces. So I'm going to show you a trick with doing when you have a 4 patch of any size. Okay, you'll see that right here we're going to on the first 2 press to the dark side, right? Okay, now we want to have these seams go around the clock. They're just going to all go in the same direction as the other 2. And let me show you what I mean. We're going to pull this apart just a little bit. You see how I did that? Okay, just a little bit. You don't have to do all of it. And now it's going to give me this little cute little 4 patch in the middle. So when I iron those, I'm going to iron the selvages. Then I'm going to come in and iron that center. I'm actually going to iron the others too because I didn't iron any of this before I started to doing that. Okay, you can check, you can turn over to their side and see. It is, in this instance, you are going to see 2 of the seams because that is, but it does a 4 patch on the back. Okay, and you want to do this because you don't want a lot of bulk right here. Okay, you want, and then because if you did it all the other direction, then all these seams would end up here, and you'd have like instead of having just 3 layers at each place, you would have 6 layers almost at each place. So you don't want to do that. Okay, so that's how you do like a little 4 patch. This is how I ironed this one, and you'll see that everything is ironed to the dark side and then pressed, and that's traditionally what you're supposed to do. And whatever pattern you do, hopefully the person has given you directions for these little arrows right here are going to tell you which direction to press that. And you can see there's even little ones in here that tell you which direction to press this, which direction to press that, which direction to press the bottom one. And then when you sew them all together, which direction those seams should go. So hopefully whoever did your pattern to do that. Occasionally though, you're going to end up with too much bulk if you do that. You can see on this one that these seams are pressed to the dark side. These seams are pressed to the dark side. This seam is, this seam is. This seam in the middle is not. Okay, and the reason it's not is because when you get here, if you press it to one side or the other, when you flipped it over, you would not have a smooth thing. You would have bumpy, 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 and it's just not very fun. And so occasionally you're going to need to press open. But again, follow the directions on your pattern and when it tells you. There are some quilters, long arm quilters, who will not take your quilts if you do not press also the dark side. And that is because they can come along on one of these places that's open here, and if they hit down and break a thread, then now they have a hole. And it's a hole that needs to be fixed, or the whole thing will start to come undone. So one of the things that you can do is, if you know you're going to be doing some of these straight stitches like this, that you lower your stitch length. So traditionally I sew at a 2 on any quilt anyway, to give it just that nice little stitch. But if I'm doing this where it's going to be open, I might go down to a 1.8 or 6 or 5 even, and do a tiny little stitch. That gives me a little bit more assurance that it's not going to break while she's doing that. Okay, here is another example of when you're going to want to press open. Anytime you're doing diagonal seams, you're going to want to press open. Much easier. If I didn't, I would have this big, huge, because here's 6 different fabrics that are going to all match up there together, and it would be such a big bump, and it would be horrible to do. And I'm telling you that even quilters, when you go over those big bumps, they're going to break. So you don't want to do that. So first rule is press to the dark side. Second rule is look at the pattern and see how it wants you to do that. There is one more thing I want to talk about, and that is pressing anything that's appliqué. Okay, when you're pressing things that are appliqué, this one I did have to press on this side because there was like a stitch under, and you know, it's a glue that I had to glue on, but I was using a Teflon pad. But a lot of times when you've done if you've used like the interfacing or you're doing hand turned applique or whatever, you don't want this to be all smashed flat, okay? All the little buttons and things like that. So what you do want to do is turn it to the wrong side and then just stitch this. And what that does is it pushes it out. Even if you've done like a cross stitch or something, this is how you want to press. You're going to press from the back side so that everything gets, pushed out. And it will actually like pop your applique item, whatever you have, it's going to pop it out a little bit and give it more of that three-dimensional look to it also. Okay, so those are all my tips today. I'm a one-handed person today, or one person taping today. So those are all my tips on ironing and doing it. So find a good station, get yourself a clapper, get a good iron that you absolutely love. And I don't like big irons. These are, little irons really do work well, and they're really nice. Get some spray, get a few of those pressing tools. That makes it easy and handy to do that. I know there's some people that they don't even iron until the whole entire block is all put together. They just do finger pressing everywhere so that it doesn't really, so it doesn't distort your fabric at all until you're completely done. So those are my tips and tricks on how to press. Remember, we're not ironing, we're pressing. And you want to do an up and down as you do, and not iron like you would a shirt. Okay, we're not ironing, we're pressing. So thanks again. If you like this video, please like it and subscribe it. And don't forget to ding the bell so you get notifications anytime we post new videos. And have a great day.